The Nigerian Bar Association has strongly condemned what it describes as a disturbing courtroom incident involving activist Omoyele Showore's lawyer. The association is reacting to reports that a judge allegedly ordered the defense counsel to kneel during proceedings, a move the NBA says undermines the dignity of the legal profession and raises serious concerns about judicial conduct.
The incident reportedly occurred during a case involving Showore, who is facing prosecution over alleged cyber-related offenses, with lawyers in courts said to have intervened before the matter was adjourned. The NBA insists such actions, if confirmed, are unacceptable and must not be allowed to erode the standards of justice and decorum within Nigerian courts. Joining us to discuss this is lawyer Deji Ajari and legal practitioner Towo Oseruwoja. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and also thank you for your patience with us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
All right. I'll begin with you, Towo. I don't know if you followed the story. Yesterday on our Show 12 report, we had our anchor, Blessings Mosugu, walk us through it as she spoke to our correspondent. And I don't know if you know the details of the story so far, but is kneeling down a legally recognized punishment, to be used in the court of law?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I followed the event. As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine who was in court when the issue happened. And I must acknowledge the fact that the court is a dominus litis. When I mean is a dominus litis, is the commander-in-chief of the environment, which is the court. It determines what happened in the court. And the judges are the only people, I believe, that can be classified as men of God, because they are the representative of men, they are the representative of God on earth. Their utterances, their position, their behavior, and their orders can alter the well-being of a man and can alter the existence of a nation. So you see how powerful they are. But to the extent of bringing a man to his knees, even God in his infinite mercy respect the dignity of man. And that submission comes willingly from the man which God created. So if God can exercise, if God respects that dignity, I see no reason whereby his representative will not usurp such power to say, okay, a man should be on his knee. It's something that has, even not to a lawyer, but to any human being, it degrades the dignity of that human being. And the judge has rights to sanction a lawyer. That is fair. That is correct. When a lawyer is seen or exhibits what we call an infamous conduct in court, he has the right to sanction. And that right to sanction does not include him ordering a man or a lawyer fully robed to kneel in a court where both litigants and lawyers of such nature. We've seen a situation whereby, due to an act that may be done as a result of the anger of the judge, lawyers plead. They retract their statement, because if you look at the story and people who were there, they were talking about the tone and the utterances of the lawyer. The respect is both ways, but the judge has option before him. It's either to deprive him that right of audience, it's either to hold him for contempt, which sometimes they may invoke that power of immediate restriction, pending when a proper proceedings may be carried out by another judge to look the content that has been done, or he has the other way of reporting the lawyer for infamous conduct before the Nigerian Bar Association for disciplinary measures. So kneeling is not an option, and it's really bad. And you can see the level in which such powers given to them by law and by God is being abused.
Thank you very much, Towo. I'd like to bring Deji Ajari into the conversation. Now, Deji, what could have led the judge to overstep his boundaries? Because if you look at the books, there's nothing that prescribes kneeling down as a punishment for contempt of court. Maybe perhaps is the fact that is addressed as my lord. In Yoruba, you translate it as Oluwami. I don't know, maybe that's why he feels he has divine powers to do so. What do you think?
Well, like you have said, kneeling down is not a legally recognized sanction for unruly behavior by a legal practitioner in court. And clearly, the judge overstepped his boundaries in threatening or asking the lawyer to so kneel down. But what could have led to that? I don't think it is anything other than anger, because the judge is not a junior judge. Clearly must know about the judicial ethics of patience, of dignity, and of courtesy, mutual courtesy. And so clearly the judge got angry, and rather than acting judicially, he acted personally, and they decided to impose a sanction that is not judicial in nature, but basically that merely reflects his state of mind. And I think it is very commendable that other lawyers, including the senior advocate who was standing in opposition to that counsel himself, intervened and urged forgiveness from my lord in open court. That shows that indeed that is the true spirit of dignity that the legal profession requires. It shows that, because they basically spared the judge of having to impose that sanction, which could have indeed put him in serious trouble. And they also spared the counsel of that indignity of choosing between obeying the court to kneel down or walking out. Just barely defying the judge outrightly, which could have also clearly put himself in trouble with the NBA Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee. So whatever might have happened in court clearly got to the judge, got him angry. Whether it is justified or not is another thing entirely. I was not in court, but the reports that are in the news indicate that the lawyer raised his voice continuously, even after the judge had warned him about that. But one thing that is certain is that no matter how angry, no matter how annoying the conduct of a lawyer is, the judge, who has tools with which he can, punish such contempt, must follow due process. There are so many things the court could have done, could have awarded costs, could have ordered the lawyer out, would have refused to give him audience after that, and could have reported him to the LPDC of the NBA, whichever way, so many things, or could have held him in contempt and, tried him summarily for contempt in the face of the court. But the court refused to do any of this. He refused to follow the due process. And that way, whatever the actions of the lawyer that led to that scenario, the judge has also now complicated it by being wrong as well.
Okay, let's go back to the court now, and let's get to watch the video from Sowore himself and, of course, the lawyer. And then when we come back, we'll discuss some more.
We are very calm about the process. And as Nigerians and as lawyers, we don't have a choice than to trust in the judicial process in this country. But where we have reservations about certain procedures employed by the court, it behoves upon us to point out to the judge and to tell or to remind the judge and the prosecution that the court system in Nigeria is for everybody. And under the Nigerian law, both the governments and the governed, all parties and applicants in court are equal before the judge.
And I have to admit that it was a very tense outing. And I must also reveal to you that initially the prosecution had wanted to bring Reno Omokri. Very well. As one of their witnesses. But after seeing what our lawyers did to their only witness, they have decided to close their case. And we are going to, after consultation, respond as defense. So the case was adjourned till April 13th.
Okay, so the entire situation that led to the entire drama had to do with, of course, the man himself, Omoyele Sowore, his lawyer, and then they tendered an evidence in court, which equally showed the video of Reno Omokri, and we know it went back and forth. Like he said, they decided to put an end to the case, whichever. But let me come back to you. Let me go to you, Tor. Seeing that this was a heated situation, of course, where documents were presented in terms of video, and then this led to arguments and so on and so forth. Can you share with us what can be done in an instance, especially in court, where there seems to be rancor, noise back and forth and so on? What power does the judge have at that point in time? Because it's one thing to hear from the Showore's camp. It's another thing to look at the powers that the judge has in order to quell the situation, calm it down, and be able to still maintain his or her power.
The judge is the dominus litis. When I mean the dominus litis, which I've defined earlier, is that it takes charge. And when such anarchy happens in a court, that means two things would have played. Both counsel would have taken the judge for granted, or the judge is naive of the process that is before him. And in situation whereby two parties cannot speak at the same time in a court of law, I'll tell you that is procedural irregularity. And if a judge allows the atmosphere or the arena to go to that level, I think two things would have come to play. It's either we look at the judge competency in handling matters before him, or alternatively, is being tutored by the lawyers, not in taking charge of the situation. So, and if you look at both parties, I've been in a situation whereby sometimes you may be overwhelmed to the fact that the judge ought to know what to do at a particular point in time. But as counsels, as lawyers, you are also trained to guide the court through a process that is known to law. And when that judge, or if you find yourself in that cross whereby you see the judge is perceived to be one-sided, or is perceived to be naive, or is perceived to be ignorant of the process, that is where the appeal process comes in. That is where your documentation comes in. And most times, the language in which you use before the court also determine. You can just simply say, my Lord, may I be on record? And by so doing, you draw his consciousness. Most times, you draw his consciousness to the fact that you wanted to establish a fact, not because of you wanted to establish a fact, and you want that fact to be on his record for the purpose of meeting the 3 or 5 wise men, or further to the 7 wise men or 5 wise men, depending on the subject matter. So basically, a court cannot be that tense if the judge exercise that power of the fact that, okay, well, counsel, is not your turn to speak. And that is why when objections are raised, when one of the parties or one of the counsel is talking, it can be overruled by the court just for the purpose of maintaining the sanity in the court. And when that objection is sustained, then the other party sits down. So that is where content comes in. That is where infamous conduct comes in. So it all depends. And from what we've gotten from all the whole issue, to some extent, when you meet some individuals who seems to be publicly uncontrollable, the judge has that power to ask them to step out of the courtroom. The judge has that power to ask them to sit down rather than asking them to kneel down. The court also has the power to sanction them. And when such sanctions are raised, immediately it brought sanity to the mind of everybody.
What are some of these kind of sanctions?
No, my colleague, my learned colleague, sorry, let me don't use the word. I'm not that used to that popular cliche learned. We are dead when we are learned, though. My colleague stated it earlier on. One of the things of the such sanction is you deprive, which I stated earlier, you deprive the lawyer of audience. And how can you deprive the lawyer of audience? You can either ask him his objection is overruled. You can either ask him to step out of the courtroom. That is part of the procedural this thing. You can either hold him for contempt. And at the same time, you draw his consciousness to his oath of office. There is a minister in the temple of justice, and he has the responsibility to maintain a decorum. And if that decorum is not found in him, it can be reported to the Nigeria Bar Association Disciplinary Committee. As a matter of fact, you can also, in one way, step down a weakness. Part of this, you can step down a weakness if the weakness is presumed to be rude, and you can order an immediate temporary arrest of any person in that court when you feel that the peace and the tranquility of the court is in threatened. But asking the person to kneel down is something that is alien to law. is
Okay.
alien to law and is alien to mankind.
All right, Deji, I'll bring you in now. But before then, let me just run us quickly through a written account for the benefit of our audience who do not understand what exactly was said. What is this thing that led to contempt? So a date was selected for them to still, I think, to close out defense April 13th. Unfortunately, Sowore was saying how this date conflicts with his party primaries. And while he was speaking from the dock, simultaneously, his lawyer was arguing and saying, the court belongs to all of us, not some of us. Then the Justice Mohammed Umar said, if you shout in this court again, I will commit you for contempt. In fact, come here, come and kneel down there. And he pointed to his spot in front of the courtroom. Abubakar refused. He told the judge in measured but firm tones that kneeling before a judge was unknown to Nigerian law and could not be imposed as a lawful punishment. And immediately other lawyers stood up to his defense, appealing to the emotions of the judge, to let things slide. Deji Ajare, this hasn't been done before in a Nigerian court. There's no precedent by which, not that I know of, maybe there has been and it wasn't publicized, but to the best of our knowledge, there hasn't been any precedents like this. Are there concerns that today we hear kneel down, tomorrow we hear kneel down, hands up and close your eyes? Is there a fear that this will be a precedent that will be set in court? And how do we prevent this from happening again?
Just like I had said earlier, the courtroom is not a marketplace, and it is the judge's prerogative to control proceedings. And of course, counsel must also maintain decorum. And where a lawyer is disruptive, the judge can use the lawful tools available to him where necessary. But of course, kneeling down is not known to our law. Like we have said, it is improper, it is unprofessional. And public embarrassment is not a legally known disciplinary measure. So there cannot be, these incidents can certainly not stand as a precedent that will be followed, not under our law. And thankfully, the Nigerian Bar Association has responded in a very, very strong worded press statement condemning judicial high-handedness, and of course, at the same time, while admonishing lawyers, counsel, to be decorous in their conduct in the court. And I think in this situation, you have the possibility of two erring parties, either the judge or the counsel, and there are procedures for reporting such misconduct for the bench to the NJC, for the bar to the MPA. And if these procedures are followed, I am sure disciplinary measures will definitely be imposed on either of the parties. It cannot certainly stand as a precedent that the courts, the judiciary or the legal profession, as it were, will support. So I assure you, I am confident that it is not going to stand. It is a stain in the annals of the legal profession in Nigeria that this was ever even contemplated. But I'm confident that it is not something that will repeat itself, at least not so soon. And if it does, it will be dealt with through the appropriate disciplinary procedures, like I have explained, for the bar and for the bench, the NBA or the NJC, as the case may be.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm sure that we'll continue with this case and see how it turns out for Omoyele Sowore, and also the bigger picture of this maybe not being something that will happen again in our courts. Yes, thank you for your time.
Olive, if you're considering dusting your wig and gown and going back to the court, don't worry. Deji Ajare has said,
Deji Ajare is doing it for me. I don't need to.
That will never happen.
They don't need me.
So you have no fear of kneeling down or climbing Okada or raising your hands.
I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Okay, I'll take note of that. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
You're welcome.